As you say, that last result has come in from St Ives. So let's give you the final total of this election. The Conservatives there ending the day on 365 seats, Labour on 203. A really disappointing result for Labour there. That's even lower than Michael Foot's level of 209 seats back in 1983. And let's break it down and see where they lost their seats. They made just one gain, that was in Putney, but they lost 60 seats, 54 of them to the Conservatives. So what's gone wrong for Labour? Let's take a little look at some of the seats they had wanted to hang on to. So these were their seats that they wanted to defend. All of this, by the end of the night, they'd wanted to be red, but look how much blue there is on there and a little bit of yellow as well. And some of the swings required for these seats were quite big. Up to 4% over here had to go, and they lost seats like Great Grimsby. For generations that had been Labour. Here over under a 6% swing needed for these seats. We've got Bolsover, for example, Dennis Skinner's seat. He's been the MP there for decades. Up to 8% swing. We've got Sedgefield. That was Tony Blair's seat, of course. That too going to the Conservatives from Labour. And we've also got Blythe Valley, which was one of the early shocks of the evening when that former mining town went to the Conservatives as well. That needed up to 10% swing there. But I want to talk about Workington, because if you've been following the campaign, you will have heard a lot of talk about Workington, because a think tank talked about Workington Man. This was their kind of stereotype northern male voter who voted to leave the EU, who's frustrated with the way that they were being represented at Westminster. So let's take a closer look at Workington, because indeed that did go from Labour, traditionally a Labour seat, to the Conservatives. And there's that Leave vote there, you can see. 61% Leave in Workington there. It's also got an older demographic, a lower number of under 45s there, and it's also got about 20%, 1 in 5 graduates in that seat. And the reason I'm picking that out is because it's not alone. There are a load of seats in what was called the Red Wall, Labour's Red Wall, that has been decimated overnight. Let's just bring in Blythe Valley again. We mentioned it a little bit earlier. Blythe Valley there, look at the similarities. Brexit vote, both around 60% there, similar age demographic there, also similar level of graduates as well. Blythe Valley also going Conservative. So let's look back over here. Here's how the map looks when you've got all those constituencies in there represented by the hexagons. We're going to move those over now and see how it looks when we put it into a graph that shows how those constituencies voted during Brexit. Now, this end, this is 21% voted to leave, so these are really heavily Remain areas. Down this end, we go up to 76% Leave, so really heavily Leave areas. And you've got a lot of blue here now. There would have been much more red before last night, but a lot of those Leave areas in the north of England now have gone blue. And down here, lots of red, and SNP and Liberal Democrat as well down this end, down the Remain end. But a few blue. Let's just pick out some of those, shall we? Let's look at Stroud, for example. Now, this is a seat that also went to the Conservatives. This is Stroud. On the deprivation index, really affluent area here at Stroud. A contrast to some of those seats in the north as well. So really interesting. Boris Johnson now has seats at either end of the scale. Here, the level of graduates, about 1 in 3 rather than 1 in 5. And Brexit here, voting to Remain. So really interesting. Different seats with different needs. Really interesting to see how that might be reflected in policy, keeping those different voters happy.